Hey Optimancers! Yesterday I released a video discussing my 10 worst videos of 2022. These were videos where I wish I had done them differently, or in some cases not done them at all. It's mainly a chance for me to reflect on my content and come to some decisions regarding how I can improve it in 2023. I figure after that humbling experience, I should give myself a chance to feel proud regarding the things that I'm proud of over this past year. This is kind of a last minute video. It's December 28th as I script this one. But best is a subjective thing, so you might not consider these to be my best 10, but I do. This is the content I look back on, and it makes me feel good about what I present to my viewers. So that's where I'm coming from here. So let's go over my 10 best videos of 2022. Number 10. Number 10 is one of my favorite builds, the Tear and Scare, a D&D 5e Dragonborn build. Most of my builds take a single optimization idea that I think is original and effective, and then make a build utilizing that idea and present it. The Tear and Scare has two such ideas put in the same build. The first was utilizing the Dragon Fear feat on the new Dragonborn options in Fizban's, which allowed for use of a feat that before wasn't bad, but made it really good. The second was combining the Bladesinger and Warlock to get Eldritch Blast combined with the Bladesinger extra attack, which is a combination I see all the time these days. But it wasn't at all 10 months ago. I still get comments on videos telling me about using Eldritch Blast with the Bladesinger extra attack. Yeah, I know. I don't know if I was the first to present it publicly, but I definitely hadn't seen it anywhere else before I published this video. Now I realize the thumbnail and the video title don't highlight this interaction, which I guess is the drawback of having two cool mechanic interactions on the same build. Number 9. So with number 9 we go from a build video to a rules analysis video. These two kinds of videos are really my bread and butter. RAW might be the most misused acronym in D&D 5e, was really calling out this idea that if something is missing from the rules, you can somehow refer to it as rules as written. I mean, it sounds absurd when I say it simply, but we see it all the time. What I'm really proud of here is this video promotes the kind of play I think is healthy, where players and DMs play by a shared understanding of how things should work, rather than looking for minutiae that might, with a bad faith reading, support a non-intuitive interpretation of the rules ready for players to exploit. I think that's really bad form, and it's a personal pet peeve when these kinds of things are presented as optimization, and even more so when they're referred to as raw. I figure optimization involves making the best mechanical decisions, but within the framework of the rules as players and DMs understand them to work. This video also introduced an acronym that I still use, TURDSIC. The rules don't say I can't. And the rules don't say you can't isn't rules as written. Rules as written means something that is written in the rules, not omitted from the rules. And I am adding one quick edit here because I got a message from Pack Tactics while editing this video that he gets comments that even things that ought to work, like jumping in full plate, can be attacked as TURDSIC. Anyone using the term to attack something that the players and DM agree ought to work either didn't watch the video or are deliberately misusing the term in bad faith. So for those that need a refresher, here it is. The rules don't say doesn't mean you can, and it doesn't mean you can't. It just means the rules don't say. And when the rules don't say, what do you need to do? Players, DM, shared agreement. Number 8. Back to build videos with number 8, the Frostbane Barbarian. I've had this idea floating around in my potential builds for a long, long time. Rage doesn't allow you to cast spells, and it also doesn't allow you to concentrate on spells. But it doesn't prevent spells pre-cast that don't use concentration, like Armor Bagathus and Fire Shield. I've always loved the idea of utilizing barbarians being the de facto target of enemy attacks to punish those enemies. But I played around with this build a few years ago, and it wasn't good enough to present in a video. So it basically ended up on my list of builds that didn't work out. This year, I revisited the build to work on it again, and lo and behold, I found some options in Tasha's, which didn't exist when I first did this build, that made this build work fairly well. Well enough to deserve presentation in a video. I don't know if I'd call this as good a build as the Tear and Scare, but Getting this build from failure to a build I think is worthy of a video is something I'm proud of, especially since it took such a long time. Number 7. Back to rules analysis, my number 7 is my video analyzing melee versus ranged weapons in D&D. I hear all the time that ranged weapon builds are just straight out superior to melee weapon builds, and the arguments provided are compelling. Compelling enough that if I was to make a hot take video titled something like Melee is awful in D&D or something like that, I'd probably get more clicks on the video. However, I think there is more nuance in the comparison of melee versus ranged that goes beyond just what does more damage. If we really deep dive into tactics and overall contribution, then the answer is not so simple. And I figured that highlighting that nuance just made for a more honest video. Even if it depends is a pretty lukewarm take on the subject. Be aware that if you watch this one, it's a deep dive and the results may surprise you. Just kidding. The results are, it depends on your priorities and what you want your character to contribute to your team. Number 6. Number 6 is my most recent video on this list, my Dread Necromancer, a table-friendly wizard optimized build video. I have always liked the idea of playing a summoner, but there is good reason why the players you're playing with might die a little inside when they hear you plan to play one in the upcoming game, or especially in an upcoming extended campaign. Often ideas that seem cool in our heads, like the Necromancer with the army of skeletons firing short bows in combat, turn into not so cool ideas at the table. I came up with 3 summoning builds that I thought worked well, and they all utilized different rules interactions in order to increase their effectiveness. But I especially like this one, because it takes a character concept that has been pretty common knowledge for pretty much 8 years now, and then turns it on its head, leading to a build that is way more friendly for your table, and I think is more reliable in its effectiveness. And reliability is a factor I don't always see considered enough in builds presented as optimized. Number 5. Every once in a while I do prediction videos, and number 5 is an example of where we can actually look back and gauge the results. I think maybe my best prediction video of all time was the end of 5th edition D&D that I released on Christmas Day of 2020, where I predicted that they were working on a revised player's handbook or a 6th edition, and I figured we might hear something about it within the following year. And then we did 9 months later. But most of my prediction in videos in 2022, we can't really confirm or dismiss yet. But as usual, when changes are made to D&D, there is a vocal portion of the community that announce that doom and gloom is inevitable with these changes. And in this case, that Monsters of the Multiverse, redesigning monsters with more non-spell but spell-like actions, meant they were designing Counterspell into obsolescence. If you watch my videos, you know I seldom agree with these predictions. And in this video, I instead do an analysis of the actual stat blocks, and I draw the conclusion that despite these changes, it really looks like Counterspell is still going to be a strong option for player character casters. 9 months have passed since we were told that Monsters of the Multiverse was going to make Counterspell useless. Notice a lot of people arguing that Counterspell sucks in D&D these days? Yeah, me neither. Number 4. So, my number 4 video was originally supposed to be a build video, but it ended up being a video discussing how damage per round calculations should be taken with one huge grain of salt, especially when the methodology for those calculations isn't crystal clear. In this case, there was a monk build that I was informed could do huge damage numbers, and it wasn't in question because the math had all been done already, and it all checks out. 78 DPR with a monk is absolutely unheard of, and worth a video, maybe multiple videos, because this is big news. Turns out, when I did the math for DPR, I got less than half these results. Further investigation revealed that the issue wasn't the math. It was the assumptions that were made before ever punching the math. Different assumptions lead to very different damage predictions, which unfortunately does confirm that DPR isn't a great tool for predicting damage. I mean, it's the only tool we really have, so we use it anyways, but I think it's just really useful for people reading or watching these builds that are being presented to understand that comparing DPR on builds when DPR may be calculated using different assumptions is all but useless. I actually did a video in 2021 about why DPR is not a great tool where I did highlight this, but I think this video got the point across with a real example of why you can't trust a DPR number unless you actually know the methodology used in those calculations. Number 3. Now, these videos could take 2 spots on my list, but it's my video, so yeah. D&D falls apart at high level. D&D is okay up to about level 11, but then it gets so broken it's pointless to even try playing. Better just to avoid high level play altogether. We know these things. It's common knowledge. There's no point even challenging what we all know is true. Except that it's wrong. You can totally play 20th level D&D, and it works great, and it's tons of fun for the players and the DM. Players love playing that fantasy epic character, especially one they never thought they would get a chance to play. DMs love epic challenges for those characters. So when I did an actual play video with Colby, Eric, Monty, and Kelly, I knew that it would be a 20th level game. And I absolutely would not have made that video if I thought for 1 second it might not have worked out just fine. And guess what? It worked out just fine. I followed it up with a video explaining why I knew that and how my viewers can enjoy high-level play without worrying about the catastrophe they have been incorrectly promised. If you like the idea of high-level play, but you're worried about the consequences, check these videos out. I think they'll ease your mind and give some simple tools to make sure you have a great experience. Number two is when to smite with your paladin in D&D 5e. I have seen way too many takes on this that boil down to you should do it almost never, or you should do it until your spell slots run out, or you should do it whenever you crit. This was a topic I really felt needed a nuanced and actually useful tool set for a player of a paladin to use this tool they have in the most effective way. This is just a 10-minute video, so it's not overly complex. It's just a simple, flexible, based on your personal playstyle preference checklist of the times you should consider using smiting, and a brief discussion of what those considerations are. I'll tell you what, if I had seen somebody else go over this in what I felt was a really helpful way before, this video wouldn't exist. As it is, I recommend it all the time as a must-see for anyone playing a paladin. Number 1. Easily the video that took the most time from concept to a finished video was my How to Become a Full-Time YouTuber for the Ranked Beginner. Almost a full work week's worth of hours in scripting, a multi-hour recording that glitched and was lost, a topic that wasn't about D&D. This was a risky video for my channel, and a really, really hard video to make. And I am so proud of what I ended up with. This video was 10 out of 10 when I released it, as in it performed the 10th best of my last 10 videos. Or in other words, it was a total flop. Is that 65,000 views? Yep. What I can say about this one is it was a slow burn. This video is still getting views. That light gray line is my normal video performance, which is generally about a week or so of a lot of views, and then basically 0 after that. This one is still getting viewers. What I really like about what I ended up with, and the content of this video in the planning phase went through several revisions, is this video does something that I think most of these kinds of videos fail to do. And that is take my personal experience of someone who has made this a career but has no idea on how to do it. I had no idea how to record myself. I had never even seen editing software. I had never written a script or anything at all. And I dived into it blindly, and I shared what it was like and provided what assistance I could for people who are in the situation I was in. I am still getting regular messages in the comments or in private messages from people who've decided to try YouTube themselves based on my video, and that's fantastic. So those are my top 10 best videos as far as I'm concerned. But obviously, I would love to hear about videos from this channel in the past year that you've enjoyed, whether they're on this list or not. And I'll finish up with a Happy New Year to all of you. Thanks so much, and it's time to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you next year.